Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the June 6, 2021 condensed edition of Pro Wrestling Throwdown. I am Caleb Black. This is Luke, the Big Dog Williams, along with our in-studio producer, the mighty Max Fury. Our in-ring correspondent, Quicksilver, couldn't be here as he is competitively unicycling this weekend for the championship in South Dakota. So best of luck in your unicycle competition, Quicksilver. As we get into it, Luke, how's your Sunday?
How's my Sunday?
Yeah,
it's fantastic. Sunday. We're here.
We are here.
A little bit of problem last week.
Yes.
But we're here.
Yeah, we're going to get into all that. Max, how's your Sunday?
Oh, starting out pretty good. Had, like Luke said, we had kind of a rough week. Doing better today.
Yeah.
Show.
So, to quick recap, we lost.
Not on unicycle. So yeah.
we lost almost all of last week's episode. We're still trying to fix some coding issues. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of that out to you guys. If not, just chalk it up to another lost episode. Due to some familiar issues going on, today's a condensed episode. So we can just make sure we got content for the week and everybody can get a breather. We're off next Sunday due to Father's Day.
Yes.
But we're back the following Sunday, and we're going to do something super special that we're going to announce on our social media about that. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at ProWrestlingTD. Find us on Facebook at Facebook.com/ProWrestlingThrowdown. Send us an email at ProWrestlingThrowdown@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But right now, it's time to get in the news. See how I did that? See how I switched it up today?
Yeah, I did, even though I know you're going to go into the spill at the end of the video.
Well, you know what? It doesn't hurt to tell the people twice.
Sometimes you got to tell them twice.
I mean, the WWE's been telling us the same thing for like 6 years, and we're still watching.
Yeah, we still eat it up.
So we're going to recap some of the news from last week, along with a couple of news stories from this week. I was going to say new news, but that doesn't make any sense because that's a new.
All news is new news.
Aha! All right. So last week, the WWE shut down its digital department, laid off a bunch of people. There were more releases to follow. We're going to get into that with the current news. This is the recap of last week's news. We're picking like the big news there. Njpw and WWE. Rumor has it, you didn't see last week, but we covered last week about the fact that there is talks between the Khan and WWE, whose name I can't remember offhand.
Tony.
No, that's a
Sheo.
That's his dad. Shadid Khan is his father. The other Khan.
Scott.
Scott Khan is an actor.
James
Khan is that actor's dad. The Khan from the WWE announced that he has been in exclusive talks. We're in talks with NJPW for an exclusive partnership for the last 3 or 4 months, which prompted a response from Tony Khan, basically saying, well, I've featured NJPW talent for like the last X amount of periods on my show, basically challenged WWE Khan to being the only Khan in wrestling. We kind of alluded to this last week. It's generating some buzz. It's generating some heat. It's generating some conversation between the WWE and AEW, which is always nice.
I remember his name. It's Sheo Khan.
That's... Nope.
No.
Still not.
All right, then.
Sinead O'Connor's the second.
No, Sheo Khan.
I know. K.O. Khan? God. All right. I wonder if,
Ricardo Montalvo?
I wonder if, Kenny Omega gets upset at booking decisions and just, as Tony walks in, God! Because if he did that, he'd be a lot cooler than he is.
I would definitely favor it a lot more.
AEW has struck a new deal with Turner Broadcasting. They'll be going back to TBS. Well, they're going to TBS for the first time, but wrestling will be back on TBS for the first time in over 20 years. Their WWE, their Wednesday night AEW Dynamite show will debut on TBS in 2022, along with AEW Rampage, which actually premieres in August of 2021. So,
on top of the 2 dark shows.
On top of the 2 dark shows and on top of the 4 mega show specials on TNT. Like we said last week, which you guys didn't hear, it's the original WCW model.
Yeah.
TBS Wrestling, TNT specials.
Yep.
They also got a huge uptick in revenue, upwards. They were making $1 million per episode from TNT. They're getting paid from what one of my sources indicates, upwards of the $10 to $11 million $11 million per episode, which means a 1,000% increase in revenue. It means that Khan's father, his initial investment of $100 million will be recapped within the first 10 to 11 weeks, which means after that, AEW will formally be in the black, not barring advertiser deals and extra party deals. They'll be completely in the black.
Or the pop-up specials that might take place.
Come April of 2022 without having sold almost any tickets all of 2021. That's super dope. That means more money to throw around. And especially when you're going against the billion-dollar entity that is the WWE, you need all the money you can get because it looks like they're shoring up pretty tightly.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to jump over to the releases or the debuts?
Sure.
Let's talk about the big releases that hit this week. A series of talents were released from the WWE, some of which were surprising, some of which were not. The biggest name, I think, on the list to discuss is Braun Strowman.
Yes.
Braun Strowman had a $1.2 million a year deal for the last 3 years, and due to budget cuts, sorry, I haven't slept in 20 hours, budget cuts per John Laurinaitis,
through text message
to the locker room, that is the reason for his release, as well as the release of Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black,
Ruby Riot.
Was there not another young lady?
Lana.
Lana
was released.
There was another one, right?
No, I'm sure that's it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You vamp for a second because I've got it in writing.
The reason that Braun Strowman was surprising is because at the last pay-per-view at Backlash, he was in the main event.
Yep.
Like, he challenged for the championship. As well as in 2020, he held the Universal title in a time that was uneasy in professional wrestling. We didn't have a crowd. We didn't have, the live feel and everything. It was kind of done off the cuff. Him beating Goldberg squashed Goldberg at last year's WrestleMania.
Santana Garrett. That was the other lady's name that was released. Sorry about that.
Winning the title from Goldberg in a so-many-second squash to being one of the first ones cut due to budget cuts.
Well, and it was just in a main event program at WrestleMania. Well, not main event, but a program at WrestleMania with Shane McMahon leading into the main event of Backlash in a huge triple threat match. It is interesting to note that some of the talent that got released had asked prior for their releases, but now they have to adhere to the 90-day no-compete.
Yeah, but here's the deal. When it comes to the 90-day no-compete, sure, not being able to be on television or wrestling in some aspect for 90 days, sure, that sucks. It hits your bank account.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But here's the deal. Did they get some kind of, I don't want to say severance pay, but severance pay?
Well, they get paid the remainder of what the WWE owes them for the 90 days.
Well, then they're not hurting
they're not going to be hurting monetarily. They're still going to make money up to the day their contract formally expires.
Here's the day you have that 90 days for these companies to start that bidding wars.
Yeah.
As we've seen, which we'll get into here in a minute with Andrade and his new deal.
Yeah.
Also, Ruby Riot, in my opinion, is in this list of people, sans Aleister Black.
Yeah.
That is the most upsetting to me.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because Ruby Riot could wrestle circles around half the WWE locker room.
Yeah. From a personal perspective, I had the good fortune to work with formerly known as Heidi Lovelace on numerous occasions, and we'll share the locker room. I never worked with her individually. She's a brilliant talent, and that's the thing.
She's also a really fantastic person.
I think that kills me the most is that she is among the most talented of female wrestlers, and they keep Nia Jax, which I understand they've got an investment, but
that's the point,
right?
That I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, you're going to get rid of somebody who can go, who puts on matches that people want to see, and yet Nia Jax, who hurts everyone that she comes in contact with, isn't the one who gets released. It makes no sense.
And it was the same thing. They kept Jackson Riker, but they released Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy.
Right.
Buddy Murphy's pound for pound probably the most, I'm not using that terminology, the most underutilized talent in wrestling today.
Correct.
And Tommy End should have been their next wave of the counterculture wrestler that would have brought some levity and some genuine edge to the WWE, and especially considering they just repackaged it.
Well, and when you look at Santana Garrett, she's always been a mainstay on the indie level. And for her to be like, okay, well, the E wants me, so I'm going to take all of this indie stuff, and I'm going to set that aside to go and do, which, let's not joke ourselves.
Yeah.
The WWE is the show. It's always been the show. It will always be the show.
For now.
If you're a professional wrestler and your goal is to not be in the WWE at least at one point in your life, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah.
That's where the money is. Especially here in the United States, that's where the money is.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, putting all of your credibility, all of your stuff aside to be like, well, I'm going to go here.
Yeah.
This is what they want me to do. I'll drop all this stuff. And then to be released without actually being given the chance to show what you can do is disgusting to me.
Well, and the nice thing is of today's climates with NJPW, with Impact now, Ring of Honor even, there's a lot of wiggle room and there's a lot of room for negotiation. Really, honestly, the only person who stands out as a where is he going to go is Braun Strowman.
Right.
Black could be a shoo-in to go back to Japan, back to Europe, Ring of Honor, Impact, MLW, AEW, wherever. Ruby Riot, same thing. Buddy Murphy, same thing. Braun Strowman, he's at a disadvantage but an advantage because he's probably, if he goes to the Indies right now, he's the biggest guy on the Indies.
Sure.
If he goes to AEW, he's the biggest guy in AEW.
He's one of those guys that is, and I hate to say this because we've worked in the Indies all of our career.
Yeah.
He, in my opinion, is too big for the Indies.
For the climate that it's in, yeah, it's going to be hard to utilize him. Now, he could become a Gaijin in NJPW and make tons of
what I'm saying is most indie shows are ran through relatively small places.
Yeah.
Relatively small houses.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay Braun Strowman what Braun Strowman wants to show up at an indie.
Even then, physically, even small venues.
Right.
Braun Strowman, at his full height, is 6'7". So if you put him in a wrestling ring in a VFW, what are you going to do with him? It's going to be interesting to see where he is.
Not to mention, he was he was, for lack of a better term, he was born and bred in the WWE. He's used to the WWE style. That shit don't fly on the indies.
No.
You have to. You don't do scripts. You don't do all that. You have to be able to become that independent contractor and be able to be like, okay, well, this works.
Yeah.
Well, if you're Braun Strowman and you've been in the WWE for as long as he has, his more question isn't this is what works. It's what works.
Yeah.
And if you can't figure out what works on your own, you're going to flounder, regardless of if you have talent or not.
I agree. It'll be interesting to see where everybody ends up, I think. GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, is currently involved in what appears to be presumably legal litigation with IWTV. Now, as you know, we are commentators for a professional wrestling company that's featured on IWTV, so we are not speaking on behalf of one or the other. Neither of us work for GCW. We don't know the internal issues, but it's a topical thing because GCW is pretty much one of the top independent companies today. IWTV is that platform for independent wrestling.
In the promotion that we work with, we have worked with several GCW guys.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where that turns out legally.
Correct.
Closing the big news this week, AEW gets two huge names, in my opinion. First of which, the world's strongest man, Mark Henry, as a commentator for Rampage.
Yes.
I hope, and I genuinely hope, that they pull Big Show from the YouTube show and they put him with Mark Henry. And give them the hour and see what they got.
Well, and not only that, I mean, we had 3, but I guess we're going to save that for our recap of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because there was a third man who showed up that is newly signed to AEW as well. I'll just say it, being Leo Rush.
Oh, that's right. So
I forgot about I don't want to discredit Leo Rush because he is a talented worker.
Yeah, I totally forgot.
But yeah, Mark Henry, huge deal, looking fit, looking like if he wanted to go, he could.
Yeah.
Big Show's well, though.
I love that he gave an innocuous answer as to whether or not he's going to wrestle.
Yeah,
that's
not what he's there for.
Say no. But the big acquisition debuted last Friday night. Andrade El Idolo, formerly Andrade Cien Almas of WWE, formerly La Sombra.
Formerly Mr. Charlotte Flair.
Andrade is in AEW, and I'm pretty sure that I predicted this like 2 weeks ago or last week.
We talked about this months ago.
Because of his because he's the number 1 contender at Triple Mania against Omega. So Omega gets to breed, this is an interesting marketing deal. He gets to use AEW Dynamite to breed all 3 of his title matches coming up.
Right.
And Tony Khan's going to be on next week's Impact broadcast, talking about the upcoming Impact World title match featuring Omega. So AEW is going to be the launching point.
It's going to be interesting to see now with all the budget cuts and stuff in WWE.
Yeah.
And then you've got all this big name talent with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
With several places to go, but at this point they have to sit and wait.
Yeah.
AEW can only benefit off a lot of this.
Yeah.
There's only up.
Yeah.
They can go from here. But here's the deal. With all of that talent going there and the freed up money in WWE, who's coming to the WWE?
Well, see, and that's the other thing, too. We haven't seen anybody jump ship from AEW yet.
No.
And that would be when the first one happens. I hope it's huge, and I hope it's like out of page. Someone that not someone that would blow our minds.
Right.
That he
well, I hear that they're working. They're in the works of bringing Lesnar back to television.
Of course,
and I mean,
as they should be.
You got to have the money for Lesnar to get paid.
Right.
Period. But who else? I mean, there was the Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
Gimmick.
Rumor, yeah, that he might be popping
that
up in
Priscilla
NXT
Kelly
UK.
just signed.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the whole Ruby Riot thing.
Yeah, I know.
Why bring in new talent when you have established talent?
Well, and that's the other argument. They're still continuously expanding NXT's roster without really featuring a lot of the new signees, number one. Number two, they're cutting main name roster. It's a very confusing financial situation because it kind of looks like they're shoring up. They fired a bunch of executives. They shut down some departments. I see a check getting signed. But that's just rumor and innuendo. We will leave the speculation up to y'all. As I said
Getting
before,
interesting.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ProWrestlingThrowdown. Follow us on Twitter at ProWrestlingTD. Send us an email at ProWrestlingThrowdown@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave us a comment down below, and stay tuned. We got a couple more episodes this week coming your way.